Waiting for connection.
2023 routine childhood vaccination is estimated to have saved well over 1 million lives. The truth is that telling parents to use cod liver oil to stop measles rather than vaccines has sent innocent children to the hospital with vitamin A toxicity. The truth is that in the past decade, over 42,000 women in the United States have died from cervical cancer. Cancer that is almost entirely prevented by the HPV vaccine. Today, vaccines in a way are a victim of their own success. Parents today do not have to spend terrified nights in the hospital wondering what will become their child with diphtheria, a disease that until the vaccine was developed in the 1940s.
Connection is okay.
Children every year. Or rubella, which until a vaccine was developed in 1969 regularly infected more than 50,000 people, resulting in tens of thousands of babies born deaf, blind, or
You found the chamber key. Well done.
We cannot afford to turn back the clock.
Our men here have their hands full fighting the crocs. The archaeologists are no help,
We need to
I'm
make sure
afraid.
that every medicine, every vaccine, every treatment...
Can you defeat Beatty Narini in his chamber? Claim the missing ancient tablet from him, and perhaps I can find out how this madness started.
And effect. Nobody wants Americans exposed to side effects or dangers as a result of any medical treatment. But we should be mindful of the benefits after they are proven safe and effective, the scientifically proven benefits. And I want to thank our witnesses for coming forward today to share your views, your stories. We look forward to learning from you and working to make America safer and healthier. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Blumenthal. The truth is, vaccine injuries are real and they've been ignored. Let's go to a video before we swear in the witnesses.
During the nationwide Vaxxed and CHD bus tours, the compelling stories of thousands of individuals devastated by vaccines were videotaped. The two bus tours together collected over 12,000 signatures on behalf of people who were injured or died from vaccines. What follows is a small sample of the 2,400 video testimonies obtained during those tours.
She was born completely healthy, normal, beautiful, fight of my life, it's fight of my family's life. She did receive hepatitis B vaccine and became severely jaundiced, just severe. It just kept telling me everything was normal, and I knew something was really, really wrong. You don't believe your child is gone until they come tell you for real that she's gone. I was told SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome. And in the support group meetings I went to, every parent, every single parent there would bring up vaccines and ask. Every story had vaccines involved. A lot of a child died the next day, got vaccines, high-pitched scream, projectile vomit, whatever, until they died within less than 24 hours. So we were all asking our SIDS support group leader, you know, is there a connection? It just seems like all of us feel like vaccines are involved.
He was very athletic, he was very smart, and just a very caring and loving child. I did exactly what the doctor said. I took Cameron, who was 6.
You are not worthy of standing before me, wizard. Fall to the floor. Maybe then I shall show mercy on you.
Having seizures. This is Cameron at 6. The basketball game before, one day before he got sick having the seizures. This is Cameron in ICU the next day. Now he has cognitive delays. He no longer speaks. The doctor finally said, we don't know what happened, but I would recommend that you never give him a flu shot.
So 2, 4, and 6 months did he have his normal baby vaccine. He was due it down in August. Today they will give him August living nightmare.
His eyes were doing this, and he was shaking like this. We get to hospital, we rush him in, doctors are coming in and looking at him, and that's when they said he's had a reaction. Without a doubt, they'll have an ability to change his life. What I have on my hands now is a 19-year-old man. He's 6'2". He is volatile. On good days, Billy is brilliant and angry. On bad days, the first thing can trigger him, and he's scary.
Which the stress level fitting is.
No, don't pat Zoe.
Otto was born perfectly healthy. He was walking, running, climbing, and hitting every milestone. After 17 months round of vaccinations, he had an autoimmune reaction. It was vaccine-induced transverse myelitis. One night, he went from being able to walk to no longer being able to stand. He was paralyzed from the waist down. I had no idea my son could be paralyzed from being vaccinated. Transverse myelitis is in the vaccine insert as a potential adverse reaction, but his doctor never showed me that, and he never informed me of any serious side effects.
He was your typical boy. When he was born, he was happy, healthy, everything was flowing perfect. He was walking, talking, all of his blood checkups, everything was on time, everything was great. Then he received his chickenpox vaccine, and things really started to deteriorate from there. He was diagnosed with Guillain-Barré and told that it will be fine, it'll pass in a few days. My happy, healthy baby, in a matter of 4 days, went into a near-vegetative state of being. Counteracted something in his genetics and caused his immune system to turn on itself.
He loved baseball, snow skiing, indoor skydiving. Motocross was his passion. Anything that has to do with an adrenaline rush. The doctor said, hey, you're the age that you should get the HPV vaccine. I said, oh, okay. On day one, his whole neck and his whole right arm was completely paralyzed. My husband took him in to Instacare, holding his head for him because he couldn't get out of bed. It does suck, like, not being able to play sports anymore. I did do a lot of sports. They say one in a million, but I know too many people that have been vaccine injured, and I don't know more than 1 million people.
He was saying mama, and I was so proud that this child said mama first and not dada. We went in, as most parents do, regular vaccinations. When I went to get closer to him to wake him up, I saw that his eyes were partially propped open and he was dead. I knew at that moment what took his life. There was no question what had happened. We went back to the pediatrician. All of her questions were, was your son vaccinated? When did he start having problems? When did the seizures start? It was all around the vaccines. She said if it's any vaccine that caused these seizures, it's the DTaP. And I said, can you put that in writing? And she said no.
The VAXXed and CHD bus tours were not designed as research projects, but the evidence obtained should not be ignored. Every single vaccination on the children's vaccine schedule had reports of serious and permanent injuries, many of them including death.
It is a tradition of this subcommittee to swearing witnesses, so if you all rise and raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you will give before this subcommittee will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? As you see. All Our first witness is Miss Emily Tarsal. Ms. Tarsal is a retired psychotherapist and former president of the Licensed Clinical Professional Counselors of Maryland. She's here today to talk about her daughter, Christina. Ms. Tarsal.
Chairman Johnson and committee members, thank you for this important hearing. My name is Emily Tarsal. I'm a retired psychotherapist and a mom. I was blessed with Christina, a healthy, bright child who grew to be a beautiful, caring person, gifted athlete, artist, honor student. In 2008, my 20-year-old daughter had her first GYN appointment. The doctor recommended the HPV vaccine, and we were told it was safe and effective and would prevent cervical cancer. We were not given any literature. We were not told of any adverse side effects. Ads conveyed a sense of urgency about getting Gardasil before exposure to HPVs. So Chris had always gotten the childhood vaccine and agreed to the shots. After vaccination, my daughter developed new conditions: joint pain, chronic sinus congestion, intermittent rashes, rapid heartbeat, dizziness on standing, unusual fatigue, and arrhythmia. We saw doctors, and Chris had an EKG, which came back normal. So we thought everything was okay. We later learned that this was the wrong test, and Chris should have had a Holter monitor. No one connected the dots because even doctors are uninformed of vaccine adverse events. She continued with the shots, and 18 days after the third shot, she was found dead in her bed at college. You cannot imagine the hell of seeing your child lifeless. You struggle with the reality. How does a healthy young lady with no pre-existing conditions suddenly die?
The ancient tablet! Now I can get the rest of the story on the Order of the Fang.
Drugs, trauma,
Professor
or
Winthrop
issues.
studies the ancient
The cause of
tablet.
death was undetermined. We did not connect Chris's symptoms to vaccination initially until we discovered multiple reports from others too. My doctor advised me to file a VAERS report. I also called the FDA. They did no follow-up with me and took a year to obtain her medical records. They did one test for strep, which was negative. End of their investigation. Conclusion, cause of death undetermined. Merck, the manufacturer, also filed a VAERS report and gave a false and unsubstantiated explanation for Chris's death. Finding out what happened became my mission. I connected with other moms, experts, reporters, and with Diane Hopper, the lead investigator during clinical trials for Gardasil. She was critical of the fast-track approval and of the marketing of the vaccine. I learned too late that HPV is clear on their own 90% of the time.
The Order of the Fang oppose the evil Tuts. They planned to use the Croconomicon to put the Tuts to sleep, and we had to come round and wake them up. If only we had that book, we could set things right again. But where is it? I think the Order of the Fang still exists, hiding somewhere in Crocotopia. I want to find them. They must know where the Croconomicon is kept. We've discovered a map room that might help locate them. Unfortunately, it's located through the palace. We can't get inside. My assistant, Malcolm Danforth, has been working on a way to enter the palace, but with all these tuts about, I'm afraid for him. Please, help him. You'll find him in the excavation room in the Chamber of Fire.
No.
Screening. I learned that the incidence of HPV-related cancers is very low at 0.001%. I learned it has never been proven that the vaccine prevents any cancer. And I also learned that pharma is protected by law against lawsuits for vaccine injuries. Our only option for investigating Chris's death was to hire an attorney and file a claim in the NDIC program.
They told us to walk, not run.
Talk to the representatives from Fire, Ice, and Storm. When you learned a thing or two from them, return here. Toodles!
Everything was fine at first, and everything started to move very quickly. A pediatric cardiologist was called in to check on Jessica's heart, and while he said that it was enlarged, but it was beating strongly, and everything was fine. Literally, just a few minutes later, Jessica's heart stopped. The room suddenly filled with doctors and nurses, and everybody was doing what they could to restart Jessica's heart. Before my parents even really could comprehend what was happening, Jessica was gone. Still, 20 years later, my parents still struggle to tell the story to me. It haunts them to have to go to the hospital with their daughter and leave without her. To say that Jessica's death changed them, changed all of us, doesn't even begin to tell the depth of the story. I have a younger brother and a younger sister, and they never knew Jessica. My younger sister, Katie, is sitting in the crowd today. Even though they never knew Jessica, she remains a large part of our family. My uncle painted a portrait of her that hangs in our kitchen, and we talk to her, and we talk about what she would have been like and what she would be doing right now if she was still alive today. On her birthday and the day she died, we go to a gravesite for the family. My parents' strength is something that I will always admire. Though I was too young to realize it at the time, they turned their grief into action. In time before Facebook and social media, they found other families, all who had lost a child to flu. They came together, worked hard, and we still work each day to keep this unnecessary tragedy from happening to other families. When Jessica and Emily and Amanda and Alana died, the flu vaccine was not recommended for their age group. Our families changed that. They went to the CDC, they testified in front of the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, which many know now as the ACIP. And it wasn't easy, but
you ask what is so exciting about the ice school? Well, when I was a young girl, I loved the wintertime and played in the snow. So going to the ice school was only natural. But in later years, I grew to learn how powerful ice was. Did you know the great raven caused the giants to slumber and turn into the glaciers? With the force of giants behind our school, I don't have to boast about how powerful our magic is. I have never regretted the day I started here.
Caden Stevenson from Michigan lost both of his legs when he got the influenza and sepsis crept into his bloodstream. And to save his life, doctors had to amputate both of his legs, which he will live with these disabilities permanently. Thankfully, doctors were able to save his life. I know not everyone shares my views on vaccines, and I have enormous respect for everybody sitting here today coming forward to tell their story. I worry that the misinformation that I hear from my colleagues, my friends, and people my age are pushing us back to a time where vaccines weren't available and when people were dying at large rates from vaccine-preventable diseases. I would like to say that many vaccines are more like a seatbelt. While they might not prevent you from getting the actual disease, they are going to be your best prevention from serious complications from that disease. Deaths like my sister's, like other people from families fighting flu, and serious complications like those from Caden and many other families could have been prevented by vaccines. Other diseases like flu, measles, chickenpox, polio are all seeing a little bit of a rise and dips in vaccine rates. When I think of the lives impacted by flu, I think of my sisters, of course, but also the roughly 27,000 Americans who died just this past year. And that doesn't even count for the 600,000 who are hospitalized due to flu, and some of them suffer permanent complications that they will live with for the rest of their lives. Vaccines save lives and keep people healthy. A vaccine could have saved my sister's life. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stein. Our next witness is Dr. Brian Hooker. Dr. Hooker is the Chief Scientific Officer at Children's Health Defense. He is a doctorate in biochemical engineering. He's here today to talk about his son, Steve. Dr. Hooker.
Thank you, Senator Johnson. My name is Dr. Brian Hooker. I serve as the Chief Scientific Officer of Children's Health Defense and Emeritus Professor of Biology at Simpson University. My son, Stephen, was born on February 10th, 1998, and was a healthy baby boy. My wife and I made sure he was vaccinated on time per the CDC schedule. I didn't really know what a vaccine adverse event was at the time and thought I was doing the best for my son. Steve was born in the thimerosal era, where most hepatitis B, HIV, and DTaP vaccines distributed in the U.S. contained...
As the professor of life magic, it falls to me to tell you about a wonderful new activity available to students.
Well baby checkup, he was exposed to an accumulated total of 237.5 micrograms of mercury, and in 2 of his checkups at 2 and 6 months of age, received a single-day mercury exposure of 62.5 micrograms, which exceeded the current EPA safety.
I speak of gardening. Students at Ravenwood can plant and grow amazing plants in their dormitory rooms or castles.
Developmental delays, chronic ear infections, and upper respiratory infections. We treated these infections with antibiotics and Tylenol as a fever reducer. On the same day as my son's 15-month well baby visit, he was diagnosed with an ear infection by an otolaryngologist. My wife and I still dutifully took Steve to his well baby checkup afterwards, but we questioned the attending nurse practitioner whether he should receive his vaccines while he was sick. The nurse practitioner brushed off our concerns, indicating they didn't have any problems associated with vaccinating sick children. That day, he received the HIV and DTaP vaccines, as well as the oral poliovirus live virus vaccine. This overtaxed his immune system, which was already fighting an ear infection, and he fevered for 18 days after that.
I'm not going to get you none
the pediatrician told us to treat the fever again with Tylenol. No one at the office.
Wizards of all schools can garden, so my hope is that every student will learn the joy of shepherding new life.
He stopped talking altogether.
There is so much to learn about gardening, and I know just the person to teach you. Seek out Farley in Gollum Court. He will explain the basics of gardening to you.
Explosive diarrhea or debilitating constipation. At his 18-month checkup, he was diagnosed with full-blown autism, by the same pediatrician who gave him all of his vaccines.
This is the most relaxing puzzle game, designed for seniors. No annoying ads, no Wi-Fi.
Mitochondrial dysfunction, tics, speech and language delays, non-organic sleep disorder.
So, you have spoken with the representatives of the Fire, Ice, and Storm schools. You noticed how they all claim to be the best school, didn't you? Well, they all speak the truth in their own way. Each school has its advantages, but each school also has its own disadvantages.
Before his case was thrown out,
Balance draws on elements from each of the other schools, incorporating bits and pieces to fill in the gaps between them.
Statute of limitations would not consider any
Visit the pond in the common, stand in the water, and absorb what it has to teach you. Believe it or not, you will receive enlightenment.
At 6 months. No one in the DOJ directly opposing my son in court seemed to notice that he was pulling his ears because of recurrent ear infections. My son requires...
Talk to the representatives from Fire, Ice, and Storm. When you learned a thing or two from them, return here. Toodles!
A body that betrays every time he tries to execute any intentional task, such as eating, talking, walking, grabbing, or grasping any object. He also suffers excruciating chronic pain to gut dysbiosis and neuroinflammation. Nobody wants to see their child go through chronic debilitating pain. My son will never pay taxes. He will never hold a job. He will never play baseball. He will never write a poem. He will never go out on a date. He needs assistance despite his best efforts and despite his best wishes. He needs assistance toileting every time.
Talk to the representatives from Fire, Ice, and Storm. When you learned a thing or two from them, return here. Toodles!
And social media completely censors us. My family has been gaslighted repeatedly, and my son's medical history has become fodder for AstroTurf's blogs, as well as CDC researchers armchair quarterbacking his vaccine injury case. My son's life has been ruined, physically and emotionally, and he is persecuted by the mere fact that he exists. Life is hard, but Jesus Christ is good every day.
Thank you, Dr. Hooker. Our next witness is Dr. Robert Sullivan. Dr. Sullivan is a licensed physician and board-certified anesthesiologist over 20 years of active practice in Maryland. He is here today to talk about his vaccine injury following his COVID-19 injection. Dr. Sullivan.
Thank you, Senators. My story is not as bad. The same month I received my first COVID mRNA shot, I was featured in the Wall Street Journal's What's Your Workout column for aerial circus arts. I was strong, healthy, and thriving. Just 3 weeks after my second dose, I couldn't go up a flight of stairs without gasping for air. I became short of breath doing even simple things, walking, standing, even speaking. I had constant chest pressure, arrhythmias, and overwhelming fatigue. I cannot overstate the misery. It felt like my body was failing me. I was experiencing right heart failure. Still, I questioned myself. Was this real or in my head? When an echocardiogram confirmed the damage,
as you stare into the water, you become aware of a great power building in the area.
I was stunned to realize this is how I like to die.
Greetings, student of balance. It is wise for you to reflect upon the lessons of water. It can take many states and assume great power in both storm and ice. Water can be very destructive, eroding away both metals and mountains. It also holds great power in the way in which all life requires it. Though water has great power in the waves of an ocean, it can also achieve a calm serenity, such as in this simple pond. Reflect upon the lesson and become like water. You too can achieve balance, my friend.
You must not want anything. What are you doing? Sit down.
I was never taught about VAERS in medical school. I'm told it still isn't. Eventually, VAERS collected my medical records. I expected to hear from the FDA or CDC. I never did, of the system's failures. In researching my condition, I found the Georgetown scientist who predicted my specific problem. The very same month of the vaccine rollout, he warned that spike protein exposure...
Hi there, Wizard! I'm Oh, you're that wizard. Anyway, I'm Abner K. Doodle, PhD candidate and special assistant to the headmaster.
Also caused vascular
what does the special assistant to the headmaster do, you may be wondering? I'm basically Ambrose's gopher, but class credit is class credit.
The same kind of lung vessel damage I had.
Today, I'm tasked with informing everyone about spellements. You may already be familiar with them, but allow me to go into more detail.
Improve, but the damage remains.
Spellements are a special type of reagent that you can collect to unlock new, rare spells, or to customize spells you may already know.
It is toxic.
There are several ways to collect spellements. By completing quests, defeating certain bosses, participating in special events,
One study
and
found
even
athletes who
crafting.
got mRNA boosters saw drops in aerobic capacity equivalent to aging 5 to 10 years in just 1
You can
week.
access your spellements
Why is
by
this?
using the spell writing button on the top
I
right
now
of
see
your
college
spell deck.
patients struggling with daily tasks. Many are limited by unexplained shortness of breath.
Spellements get harder to
Could
find
this be
when
a
you're
spectrum
too
of
powerful
vascular
for
damage
a
like what
world.
happened to me?
But they'll appear again when you move them.
These are
Well,
urgent
that's
questions.
everything Ambrose's note says about
This is not normal
spellements.
aging.
I'll
This
let
is
you
not
know if
simple
and when more
conditioning.
information pops
Until we
up.
study the
Until then,
systematically,
happy spell
we won't know
writing.
how many have been injured
Here,
by COVID
use these to get
or
started
by
in
the spike
upgrading
protein
your first
itself.
spell.
Our medical system must honor its foundational oath, do no harm. When harm does occur, the right thing is to recognize it, acknowledge the suffering, and work to relieve it, while advancing research into safer therapies. The government must serve as a safeguard, restoring accountability, transparency, and public trust. And above all, every medical decision must be grounded in truly informed consent. Patients deserve and demand clear, honest information. The freedom to decide what's right for them is a right. Mandatory medicine is not medicine. Acknowledgement matters, being seen, heard, and believed. That is the first and perhaps most important step in healing. To others who have been harmed, I see you. While our injuries differ, I understand the suffering and isolation that comes when the system meant to protect you instead abandons you. I believe you. Senator Johnson and members of the committee, thank you for giving us this opportunity to start to heal.
Thank you, Dr. Sullivan. Our next witness is Ms. Polly Tommy. Ms. Tommy is the director of Children's Health Defense TV and is an internationally recognized health freedom advocate, filmmaker, and author. She is here today to talk about her son, Billy. Ms. Tommy.
My son Billy entered the world as a healthy, perfect baby with an APGAR score that reflected his perfection. We followed every wellness check, every vaccination schedule, believing in the system that promised our child safety. For his entire first year, Billy thrived, meeting milestones, crawling, babbling, growing. Yet everything changed at 13 months, the day he received the MMR vaccine, the only one on the schedule back then. That day I walked into the doctor's office, trusting the advice of professionals who emphasize the importance of vaccinating against deadly diseases like measles. Billy had just finished a round of antibiotics, but the nurse reassured me that the MMR vaccine was essential. Like any diligent parent, I followed these instructions. Hours after the vaccination, Billy's perfect world shattered. He became lethargic, sleeping for long stretches. When my husband came home that afternoon and went to check on him, Billy was convulsing, his tiny body gripped by seizures. We rushed him to hospital, desperate for answers, but the doctors, after hearing he'd had the MMR, said, "It's perfectly normal, it's perfectly common. Lots of children have seizures. He'll be fine. Antibiotics, Tylenol, he'll be fine." But he wasn't fine, and he's still not fine, age 29. He's severely sick with severe autism. We made the movie Vaxxed to try and understand and to warn the world about the real dangers of the MMR vaccine. I even vaccinated my child after I had Billy because I was so pro-vaccine and so into the system. Just the MMR was the problem. But then we got out on the bus. We took a bus and we traveled around America, listening to parents around America, what had happened to them when they vaccinated their children. And what we saw was utterly horrific. We saw so much death, so much death following baby vaccines. These parents would vaccinate their perfectly healthy child, and then their child would die. We saw a video at the beginning of this about the whooping cough. I've interviewed so many parents, and one comes to mind, Carrie Bundy's baby. At 4 months old, she pleaded with the doctor, "Should I vaccinate my child? He's premature." "Oh yes," said the pediatrician. "If you don't vaccinate your baby, he could die of whooping cough." She vaccinated that baby, and he was dead in his crib. Following that is the same story we hear over and over again. These childhood vaccinations, the people of America are telling us they are not safe and effective. We are seriously concerned at Children's Health Defense about the disinformation and misinformation out there, being told these vaccines are safety trials. The safety studies are so good.
Which is fucked up because I didn't vaccinate my kids until they got older. That was another reason why I waited so long. That's fucked up. You motherfuckers killing little kids out here with that shit, knowing that their body can't take that shit. That's why neither one of my kids got vaccinated until they got older.
Babies, teenagers, HPV Gardasil, their ovaries are shutting down. They cannot have children anymore. The parents are reporting paralysis. Children paralyzed from the waist down. You shout out about polio to us. I have never seen so many crippled children around America. So many children in wheelchairs, unable to walk, talk, speak, on ventilation. Parents are trying to tell their story. And then we have had experts break down. Yet still, I sit here and I hear over and over again that those 2 girls died of measles. They did not die of measles. And yet, the press and others consistently shout out that vaccines are safe and effective. They are, vaccinate your family. We all vaccinated our families. Everybody sitting here, bar 2, vaccinated their families with catastrophic results. Over 12,000 signatures on those 2 buses of death, death, death. When will enough be enough? How many more buses? How many more children killed? How many more injured adults? And here's a question for you, the senators. Who is going to look after our children when we, the parents, are no longer around? That can't use a toilet, that will never date. All those things Dr. Hooker said. Our children are trapped at 29, 30 years old. They will never pay taxes. They need 24-hour care because of one vaccine, one moment in time. This is a national crisis that must be addressed. I want to thank Senator Johnson and his team for giving us this day that we thought would never come, that the world could hear really and truly what happened to the people of America who are broken. And this doesn't just affect the person with the injury, by the way. It affects the siblings. It affects the extended family. One of us has to be a carer for life. So this has to stop. And we implore you, please, to follow us at Children's Health Defense, at least break down the truth and get to the truth behind the science of what is really happening. No more Pfizer-sponsored science. We need independent science. We need our pediatricians to stop getting bonuses for vaccinating our children. So thank you to Senator Johnson and his team.
Hey, Ms. Tommy. Our next witness is Ms. Cerise Murata. Ms. Murata is the Deputy Chief Executive Officer of Vaccinate Your Family, a national nonprofit. She's here today to talk about her son, Joseph. Ms. Murata.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Cerise Murata, and I am a mother who lost my child to a vaccine-preventable disease. Thank you for allowing me to be here today and share my story. In 2009, my 5-year-old son Joseph was a healthy kindergartner. He was a typical little boy who loved Star Wars and Spider-Man. As a family, we enjoyed playing board games and building puzzles. Joseph was smart, funny, and inquisitive. Simply put, he was one of the joys of my life. I was a protective mother, and like other parents, I always tried my best to keep my children safe. To be honest, the thought of losing a child to a vaccine-preventable disease never occurred to me. At the time, I incorrectly thought that these diseases were a thing of the past, until I lost my son Joseph to flu during the H1N1 pandemic in October 2009. This is a picture of Joseph. The H1N1 flu vaccine that could have saved his life was not available in our community until 2 weeks after he died. Joseph was one of 288 children who died during the 2009-2010 flu season, and one of over 2,700 children who have died from flu since 2004. Just this past flu season, 260 children have died from flu, the highest number of pediatric flu deaths we have on record for a non-pandemic year. And that's just flu. Right now, because of declining immunization rates, we have outbreaks of measles and pertussis. Due to mis- and disinformation, lack of access, anti-science sentiment, and other factors, Americans are continuing to die from diseases we have the tools to prevent. Parents continue to bury their children. We know from history what will happen if these trends continue. There is no acceptable loss when it comes to a child. Let me briefly share how my life has changed since losing Joseph. It was incredibly devastating to watch my child die in front of me in an ICU room. It was incredibly hard to go home that morning and tell his 7-year-old sister that her little brother wasn't ever coming home. Let me share what it felt like to walk into the funeral home, holding my daughter's hand and preparing her to see Joseph laying in a small coffin. Let me share how unbearable it was to stand in line at the county clinic to get my daughter her H1N1 vaccine, a vaccine that could possibly have saved Joseph's life. Let me share how incredibly painful it has been for my family each and every day to remember that Joseph will never graduate college, get married, or have a chance to contribute to society. Let me share how my heart breaks over and over and over again because he is no longer here. Now multiply that by thousands of other parents who have lost a child to a vaccine-preventable disease over the years, and the thousands more that are at risk if people don't have access to science-based, factual information about vaccines, vaccine safety, and vaccination services. Sadly, Joseph's story is not unique. I personally know many other parents who have lost their children. Maureen lost her 2-year-old son JJ to flu. Katie lost her infant Callie to whooping cough. Nicole lost her 10-year-old daughter Teresa to COVID-19. There are survivors too, like Tamika, who had cervical cancer before the HPV vaccine was available. The list goes on. These families are just a few examples of the real impacts of these diseases. According to the CDC, about 4 million deaths worldwide are prevented by childhood vaccinations every year. Vaccines undergo extensive... Amazing. Excellent. Smart. No. Amazing. Close today by acknowledging that my story and experiences do not in any way minimize those many, that the science is clear. Vaccines are safe and effective. Without these life-saving tools, our families and communities are at
You're
risk.
to help me find a way inside the palace? Excellent.
Thank you, Ms. Murata.
As far as I can tell, the palace requires a keystone to unlock the door.
Scientists with over 20 years of experience in
My
medical
partner
field
Robert Lancaster has been
appreciate
searching for the keystone.
accordingly.
Chairman Johnson, Ranking Member Blumenthal, and members of the subcommittee, thank you for the opportunity to share my story. The story of how our lives were shattered in an instant and the nightmare we now live every day.
See if you can find him, while I see if I can't whip up some other way in.
My name is Crystal Cordingley. I'm a mother of 5, and this is about my son, Corbin D. Cordingley. He was born on September 2nd, 2012, healthy, vibrant, and perfect. He hit all of his milestones early and was a bright, loving, and busy little boy. Our life before his death was full of love, joy, and innocence. I am a scientist.
and fully believed in the safety and effectiveness of vaccines. I never questioned them. I thought I was protecting my children by following the CDC's vaccination schedule. Corbin received all of his routine vaccines on time, including his 12-month shots 43 days prior to his death. On October 18, 2013, I took him in for a combo flu shot that would be administered in 2 doses. He seemed fully recovered from a recent cold, and it was a normal day. I fed my kids lunch, prepped dinner, and left for an evening shift at the hospital. That afternoon was the last time I would see my baby alive. At 8:30 p.m.,
My, there are crocs everywhere. I tried to venture out to find the keystone and ended up running for my life. Tell Malcolm Danforth I don't have the keystone, but I did discover that a piece of it is buried in the dig site at the Royal Hall.
Face down.
Say, could you do us a favor, being a wizard and all? We've heard that once you defeat a flame servant, you are left with a small eternal flame. When our fires go out, this place is pitch black. Some of those eternal flames would come in handy.
I screamed for my husband to call 911 and immediately started CPR. When I opened his mouth, his tongue was stiff with rigor mortis and his lungs gurgled with broken down lung fluid as I tried to breathe life back into him. I knew. The paramedics arrived within minutes, but it was too late. At the hospital, after what felt like a lifetime of trying to revive him, the ER doctor called time of death. My world shattered.
Thanks for that. Good show, that Robert. He couldn't find the keystone, but he did give us a way to find it.
Different that day, except
it's time to roll up your sleeves and dig into the dirt like a true archaeologist. We need to find that keystone.
He got his flu shot this morning, but no one would ever consider it. I was brushed off.
Please go to the dig site in the Royal Hall and search for the missing piece. It's probably just below the surface of the sand, so you may have to dig around some.
Not like this. I held my son's foot in the hospital until it went cold in my hand. Do you know what it's like to hold your lifeless child until their body goes cold? I prayed so hard he'd wake up that I became physically ill. His lung fluid soaked my jacket, and I've never been able to wash it. It's still in his laundry basket, along with all his other dirty clothes, untouched. Days later, I called to cancel his follow-up flu shot and told the pediatrician Corbin had died. Her immediate response was, "I don't believe the shot had anything to do with it." The medical examiner said the same, even after I asked her to send out testing. A month later, she admitted she forgot. When she finally did send tests, none of them had anything to do with determining whether the flu shot played a role in his death. Still searching for answers, we did every genetic test available. Myself, my husband, and our daughter. All clear. 2 years later, I submitted Corbin to a research study. They tested his brainstem and hippocampus. The lead researcher called me personally shocked. She said the damage and scarring she saw was typical in SIDS cases, but Corbin wasn't an infant. He was 13 months old, and he was perfectly healthy. Damage. Not defects. Not abnormalities, damage to his brain. Despite the pediatrician denying the vaccine's role to my face, I found a note in Corbin's records that she had filed a VAERS report just days after his death. She never told me. The report said, "The parents will not be contacted." She also suggested I continue vaccinating my other children and offered hospital observation after each dose. Why offer observation if vaccines are safe? I was never given informed consent. I was never told about the lack of long-term safety studies. I was never told about the ingredients like polysorbate or the fact that true placebos were never used in many vaccine trials. I was given a simple sheet saying to expect a fever and use Tylenol. I wish someone had warned me. I wish I had been told to research the vaccine inserts, to look deeper, to look at the history, the true history. I wish I had the chance to fight for his life in the hospital, or given any kind of chance. I speak today not only to honor Corbin's memory, but to urge you to ask the hard questions. Parents deserve the truth. We deserve real informed consent, because no parent should have to live the nightmare I do. To all the parents listening, you can never unvaccinate, but you can wait. Wait until it's truly proven safe. One shot, one decision, one moment. That's all it takes to shatter a family forever. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cordingway. I want to thank all the witnesses. I know telling your stories is not easy. I think I speak for everybody in this room, committee members. Our sincere condolences for your losses, for the tragedies that have really impacted your life. The divide here is wide. I don't doubt any of these stories. I don't. Where are vaccines useful? Where have they prevented death and disease? My guess is they have. But I also know that vaccine injuries are real. As I said at the onset, and they've been ignored. From both sides, we've heard misinformation. I mean, it's a weaponized word. Dr. Hooker, you've probably done as much, if not more, research into this area as anybody. Can you just comment on anything you've heard? Again, I don't want...
Wonderful! You have found the keystone! You are a true archaeologist, my friend.
But this is a discussion, this is a debate.
It's not about not having vaccination.
So, Dr.
It's about waiting.
I'm still want you comment on things that make...
Waiting until a person is good enough to take that vaccination. Doing studies for that person to make sure that that person is not allergic to anything in that vaccination. Like, that's the problem. Like, what the fuck did you not get?
You want to comment on?
You know, we've heard over and two studies that were done by a flawed and fraudulent CDC, one on thimerosal-containing vaccines and one on the MMR vaccine. Clearly, in the MMR study, when you look at the table, it shows a statistically significant effect.
I haven't been twiddling my thumbs either. I learned they divided the keystone into two pieces in order to ensure the safety of the palace.
You want to ask what
those that merely wait until 3 years of age. Now, I had a whistleblower come forward to me to tell this information, Dr. William Thompson, in 2000.
You kind of getting on my nerves. I'm about to cut the TV off.
We also know that the Versailles study in 2003 is also flawed, fraught with errors, and fraudulent, accusing them of correctly cherry-picking information from the vaccine safety data link because of issues with clinics. Now, there is a hole in the science around vaccines and autism that you can drive a Mack truck through. You can't just look at one vaccine and one component and then wave your pixie dust and say they're safe. That is just not a fact, and that is just not how science works.
Dr. You mentioned Bill Thompson, and he was featured in the first movie, Vaxxed. Can you tell the story about that particular MMR study that I think identified a link between autism and MMR in black young men, right?
That is correct.
Tell about the story about the CDC officials that gathered with their data, and was a shredder Tell about the story of them coming together and destroying the evidence, but...
There's only one thing to do, and I'm afraid it's up to
Dr.
you.
Thompson did not do so.
Tell the story, though.
I will, yes.
According to these inscriptions, the Nureni Quartermaster has the final piece of the keystone.
On this MMR study was
You will have to defeat him in combat and get it for us. Can you do that?
Through a series of phone calls, and we were in close contact for 10 months. What happened was he found the African American effect, that African Americans were over 200% more likely, and African American males over 300% more likely to get an autism diagnosis if they got the MMR vaccine on time versus if they were received the vaccine after 3 years of age. And when they got that evidence, when they got that information, they were told directly by the supervisors on the study, the same supervisors who were the co-authors of the Agent Orange.
Oh, wait, go ahead and name names.
Yes, Dr. Colleen Boyle and Dr. Frank DiStefano. They were ordered directly to destroy evidence and destroy federal records in violation of the Federal Records Act as amended in September of 2002. That information was destroyed. Dr. Thompson shared that information with me directly. I repeated the analysis, did the exact same analysis, and I got the exact same result. African American males, when they get the MMR on time, are 3.5 times more likely to get an autism diagnosis than if you wait simply until after 3 years.
So that would show a link. Again, I think
that is correct.
The important part of this story is not only that, but the fact that you had federal health agency officials destroying evidence of that fact. They gathered everybody in office, right? And they literally all brought the evidence and they destroyed it together, except for Dr. Thompson. He kept the evidence, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Chris Tarsal. As I said in the opening statement, that Dr. Joel Walscott talked about just being abandoned. Can you talk about your experience following your daughter's tragedy?
There was total disbelief in what happened. I was home alone, and the officer came to my house to tell me they found my daughter dead in the bed and told me what happened. It took quite a while for us to begin to put the pieces together. And I understand from the other panelists here that initially we were never suspect that was vaccine related because we've been told they're safe and effective and prevent whatever it is they're designed to prevent. When it first became evident that other people, at the time Gardasil had only been licensed 2 years before, so at the time there was little literature now online, but I began to connect with other parents and moms and researchers online. It's like, there's a whole lot that hasn't been told. And it's devastating to not be informed, to make, and as I learn more about it, my daughter never needed that vaccine. She was never at risk of getting cervical cancer. The risk is very low. The HPV is clear on our own. And I'm not the only mom who's gone through that experience, and now they're also pushing it for boys. When they haven't even been able to show that the vaccine causes any cancer. And there's a whole reason for that, because these cancers are very slow growing, and the onset is after age 50. So they're giving it to young adolescents. It was like, I just
was blown away. I could not imagine that they would have approved these vaccines and would continue to do so. And to have Merck lie, the other thing that's come up here in these conversations is people talking about the VAERS reports. That's the first line to determine if there are red flags for injuries after vaccination. And that is a very, very flawed system. I had no idea at the time. But I learned that, as I said in my talk, that's something that we do. One of the doctors on the panel said he never learned about it in medical school. They still don't. And how can this be? This is crazy. This is the front line to determine if there are vaccine injuries. And so I've been, I feel my daughter's here with me. I'm her.
Sign up directly on the app. Choose your own hours. Get paid to deliver on your time. There are opportunities in over 7,000 cities. Keep 100% of your tips. Download the DoorDash driver app and get started today.
Vaccine in particular. There were 6 other mothers I was connected with back in 2008 who had lost their daughters. Thank God I had support and the ability to find out more. And that's what I want to share it with other people. We all want the best for our kids.
Okay, thank you. Senator Blumenthal.
Thank you very much, and I want to agree with the chairman that we have an obligation to be constructive and understand and respect the losses that have occurred here. There's nothing antagonistic about the emotion that I feel, and I respect not just the losses, but the urgings for reform that have come from our witnesses and probably others in the audience who suffered those losses. I'm a lawyer, prosecutor for most of my life. Destruction of documents is absolutely abhorrent. It should be investigated and pursued, condemned, if there has been destruction of any documents. I think we can all agree on that point. We have a system, and it dates from, I think, around 40 or 50 years ago, the National Vaccine Injury Compensation Program. Dr. Hooker, I think you made reference to it. It provides legal immunity, a shield for manufacturers. Now, I am extremely suspicious.
It's hard to talk on this damn thing.
Immunity that is granted in any blanket way across the board to any manufacturer or to anyone. Whether it is any industry. And I would be interested to know whether others among our witnesses here today have sought to pursue claims under that program. I understand you did, Dr. Hooker, correct?
That is correct, Senator.
For some 16 years.
16 years, that's correct.
And you got no relief.
We had absolutely no relief whatsoever, neither were we oral arguments.
So maybe we ought to look at this system. I am not suggesting what should be done about it. I don't know whether you have legislation, Mr. Chairman, on this program.
We're still in the exploratory phase.
Okay. So, Again, I'm a lawyer. I'm very result-oriented. And I am heartbroken to hear these stories. It makes me want to do something. So, I'm not promising anything. So, you might want to hold your applause.
How about we ban pharmaceutical ads on TV? I'll co-sponsor that bill.
I've advocated it, and you have a co-sponsor. Remember that I'm the state attorney general who helped to lead the lawsuit against big tobacco when that industry denied that smoking caused cancer or any other disease. In fact, some tobacco manufacturers actually advertised that it was good for you to smoke. And they knew at the time, talk about destruction of records, that tobacco addiction, nicotine addiction, and smoking caused cancer. They knew it from their own experiments. They hid it, and then they actually destroyed records. And that is one of the reasons why we won that set of lawsuits when people said no one could ever win. That, in effect, they were immune. I don't really think any industry should be immune from legal responsibility. And I'm not going to go into the other industries because I don't want to muddy the waters here. But I would be interested in looking at whether reforms are appropriate. And whether, for example, the injury table ought to include other kinds of problems that allegedly are caused, and I use the word allegedly as a lawyer, by problems with vaccines. I am not a scientist. And so I really can't lead to any sort of conclusion here. And that's why in courtrooms we have expert testimony and lawyers are reprimanded if they testify. So I'm not doing it here. But I do think that we need to be responsible. Get ready to talk about this issue. Not to belittle any claim on one side or the other. And I just want to ask you, Ms. Murata, whether you have talked to families or individuals who've been affected by measles, whether you have found they've been discouraged from using the vaccine, and what you advise them to do.
Thank you for your question, Senator Blumenthal. So at Vaccinate Your Family, we do work with patient advocates that have been impacted like mine is right. One particular measles story comes to top of mind for me. His name is Joshua. At the age of 30, he caught measles. He thought he had been vaccinated. He had asked his mother when he got sick, "Hey Mom, was I vaccinated?" And he found out that he wasn't. He caught measles at his sister's college graduation and ended up in the hospital. Thankfully, he survived, but he had a really long road to recovery. So what we're seeing right now with outbreaks of measles is obviously very concerning to me as a parent. We again want people to have the right information about how they can protect themselves and their families. I don't know personally of any story where someone was discouraged from reporting an injury, so I can't speak to that.
Thank you. My time has expired. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Marino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for putting on this hearing. And, father of 5, 3 grandkids. In fact, my daughter's visited me today and last night in D.C. Normally I get an alarm clock, but this morning I got a cute little 18-month-old face in front of me to wake me up. So to all of you, I can't even, you say that you can relate. I can't. I can't even imagine what you're going through, and we have to figure out a way forward. So let me just, I think it's important that we look at where we were to understand what we need to do to go forward. So I think most Americans expect that when you get on a plane, you buy a car, you get on an elevator, you eat a meal, that there's a standard of care that company used. And if they didn't use a standard of care, that you have a path to get some sort of compensation for the lack of effort. I think most of us kind of expect that. So when we say anything is safe, there's nothing that's 100% safe. Impossible. But what's interesting about this industry is that the government has decided that this particular industry gets a free pass. That this particular industry doesn't have to be liable to anybody. And to our ranking members, I'm glad that you're interested in these things. I think that's fantastic. But President Biden or the auto pen extended immunity for these pharmaceutical companies for 5 years and we had to do it. How does that? On December 11th, 2024, with no public notice, snap about auto pen, liability is extended through 2029. So you look at it and go, well, how does